An English Rishi, written by Devendra Saxena. The Indian media has been awash with Rishi Sunak's tales from many days before his successful bid for the premiership. Mr. Sunak was born in Britain to parents who were British citizens. Mr. Sunak's grandparents had migrated from West Punjab in British India to East Africa in the 1930s. Mr. Sunak's parents had migrated to Britain in the 1960s. Incidentally, politicians like Preeti Patel and Suella Braverman have a similar story to tell: migration from British India to Great Britain via East Africa. All three views themselves as children of the British Empire rather than of India. Similar euphoria was on show when Kamala Harris became Vice President of the US a couple of years ago, with someone sharing the thought that she may ascend to presidency soon should Biden become incapacitated by old age. However, jubilation over Miss Harris' vice presidency dissolved soon enough when Miss Harris started parroting her boss's view on India's human rights and such other prickly topics. The dilemma for Indian origin politicians in the Western world is real. They run the risk of antagonizing their constituents if they are seen to be favoring India or the Indian government. An extreme example is that of Bobby Jindal, a two-time governor of Louisiana and the only Indian American Republican to have served in the US Congress. When Jindal was elected as the first Indian American governor in US history, residents of his ancestral village danced in the streets, distributed sweets, and set off firecrackers. But while making a bid for US presidency in 2016, Jindal disavowed his Indian roots totally, saying, "We are not Indian Americans, African Americans, Irish Americans, rich Americans, or poor Americans. We are all Americans." Such statements lost him the support of the Indian community both in the US and India, drying up his funding from rich Indian Americans and forcing him to drop out of the presidential race. Currently, a number of countries, apart from Indian majority nations like Mauritius, have Indians in prominent positions. The Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa Finance Minister Joe Leo and Planning Minister Nelson D'Souza all have Goan roots. It is particularly heartening for Indians that Indian origin persons are ruling over countries that had once colonized India. That said, it would be counterintuitive to expect any abnormal gains for India from Indian origin politicians. The rise of Mr. Sunak is the ultimate immigrant success story. Son of middle class migrants, Mr. Sunak rose to prominence and wealth by dint of his intelligence and industry. Like a good Indian son, in his boyhood, he kept books for his mother's pharmacy business. Like good Indian parents, his parents saved and scrounged to send him to Winchester College, an exclusive private school that has produced 6 Chancellors of Exchequer and later to Lincoln College, Oxford. After obtaining a degree in philosophy, politics, and economics from Oxford University in 2001, Mr. Sunak became an analyst for Goldman Sachs. Later, during 2004 and 6, Mr. Sunak studied for an MBA degree at Stanford University on a Fulbright scholarship, where he met his future wife Akshata Murthy, daughter of Narayan Murthy. Akshata and Rishi Sunak had a fairy tale wedding in Bangalore in 2009. By virtue of his success in business and his wife's 0.91% stake in Infosys, the couple has an estimated fortune of about $877 million. In a delicious irony, the net worth of the two is more than double that of the British monarch. Mr. Sunak had a meteoric rise in the Conservative Party soon after he started working for it in 2010. Mr. Sunak became Chancellor of the Exchequer at the age of 39. Instantly, Mr. Sunak was faced with the manifold challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. He successfully offset most of the economic and human damage of the pandemic with his broad-based economic support program. Later, Mr. Sunak launched the popular Eat Out to Help Out scheme to support restaurants and pubs with government subsidized food and drinks. These measures proved extremely popular and Mr. Sunak became the face of the government at daily press conferences. The pandemic brought great prominence to him. He acquired the image of a super slick, social media savvy, immaculately dressed, handsome, but down to earth politician. There have been some minor blips in Mr. Sunak's upward trajectory. A video from 2001 has Sunak saying that he had no working class friends. During a PR shoot to mark a cut in petrol prices, Sunak was filmed filling petrol in an ordinary red Kia car. Afterwards, it was revealed that the car belonged not to him but to an employee of the service station. More seriously, Mr. Sunak's patriotism was brought into question when it was revealed that he had a green card for US residency until October 2021. Along with Prime Minister Boris Johnson and other cabinet colleagues, Mr. Sunak was fined by the police in the Partygate scandal. The challenges, both internal and external, before Mr. Sunak are enormous. Clearly, Conservative MPs have selected him for the specific task of reviving the British economy. However, that is easier said than done. Post-Brexit, that is, withdraw from European Union, the British economy is on a downward spiral with its GDP in negative territory quarter after quarter. Years after Brexit, much needed trade agreements with the US and other leading economies have not been finalized. The COVID aftermath and an energy crisis in wake of the Ukraine war are extracting a terrible price on the British economy. Only time would tell if the British people would digest the bitter medicine proposed by Mr. Sunak. Rishi Sunak is the youngest Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in more than 200 years after William Pitt, the younger, its first Prime Minister. Historians have called Pitt, the younger, one of the greatest Prime Ministers of the UK, if on no other ground than that he enabled the country to pass from the old order to the new without any violent upheaval. He understood the new Britain. A similar task awaits Rishi Sunak. Thank you very much. Now, some of the words and their meaning. The Indian media has been awash with Rishi Sunak's tales. Awash means having an amount of something that is very large or larger than necessary. Before his successful bid for the premiership means the job of being Prime Minister. Similar euphoria was on show when Kamala Harris became Vice President of the US a couple of years ago. Euphoria means a feeling or state of intense excitement and happiness. She may ascend to presidency soon should Biden become incapacitated by old age. Incapacitate means prevent from functioning in a normal way. However, jubilation over Ms. Harris' vice presidency dissolved soon enough when Ms. Harris started parroting her boss's views. Parroting means repeat mechanically. To repeat exactly what someone else says without understanding it or thinking about its meaning. The dilemma for Indian origin politicians in Western world is real. They run the risk of antagonizing their constituents if they are seen to be favoring India or the Indian government. Antagonize means cause someone to become hostile, to make someone dislike you or feel opposed to you. When Jindal was elected as the first Indian American governor in US history, residents of his ancestral village danced in streets, distributed sweets and set off firecrackers. Set off something means to ignite or cause something to explode. But while making a bid for US presidency in 2016, Jindal disavowed his Indian roots totally. Disavow means deny any responsibility or support for. It is particularly heartening for Indians that Indian origin persons are ruling over countries that had once colonized India. That said, it would be counterintuitive to expect any abnormal gains for India. Counterintuitive means contrary to intuition or contrary to common sense expectation. Like good Indian parents, his parents saved and scrounged to send him to Winchester College. Scrounge means to forage about in an effort to acquire something at no cost. Forage means to conduct a search. Mr. Sunak became Chancellor of Exchequer at the age of 39. The Chancellor of Exchequer is the minister in the British government who makes decisions about finance and taxes. Mr. Sunak had a meteoric rise in the Conservative Party. Meteoric rise means very fast. He successfully offset most of the economic and human damage of the pandemic. Offset means to balance one influence against an opposing influence so that there is no great difference as a result. There have been some minor blips in Mr. Sunak's upward trajectory. Blip means an unexpected, minor and temporary deviation from general trend. Thank you very much.